Hello, welcome to my tutorial. I wanted to show you today how to create a weave mend on a hole in the cuff of a sweater. It's a little bit different because normally when you have like a hole, you have a lot more space around to work, whereas with a cuff, you're kind of missing the bottom portion. So you just kind of treat it a little bit differently. You need like a surface to go underneath to work on, because with the edge of a garment that needs to be mended, a lot of the times it kind of wants to expand out like this. And so what that will do, having an object underneath, is to kind of keep the shape sort of intact. So what I normally use is a wood mushroom like this as a surface underneath. But if you don't have one, what you can use is like a jar. And what you would do is you would take the jar and just sort of slide it underneath the cuff, and then use an elastic band to kind of hold it in place. So that's kind of like a good alternative if you don't have a wood mushroom. So I'm gonna slide that on there and then just take my elastic to hold that in place. So normally when I start a mend, I don't know why, I just sort of start with the warp threads that go up this way. It's not an important step, but I find with a mend like this, you have to kind of start with your weft threads that go this way. And the reason why you want to do that too is to kind of keep it from expanding, and it just kind of makes it easier when you start adding the warp threads. It kind of keeps everything in place. I'm using a tapestry wool from DMC. You probably don't want to use anything thicker than this. You can definitely go thinner. I probably would have gone thinner for a sweater like this, but if you go thinner, it's just a little bit more time consuming. So, and I find also when you start on the cuff, it takes a little longer because I'm trying to keep everything from moving at the same time. A lot of the times when I start, I don't put a knot in the yarn, only because I don't want to feel the knot. So what I do with the tails at the end is I weave them in towards the back. So just leave like a tail about 2 or 3 inches. And I would start really close to the bottom edge here. And then as you pull, I kind of just hold the edge so that it doesn't move. And what you want the distance to be is kind of similar to whatever, how it sits naturally. You don't want to make it too wide or too narrow, because if you do it too narrow, it might pucker. So I feel like that's like a good distance. And so you're just kind of creating these running stitches, just kind of under over. I would say about 1/2 inch around the hole. You can definitely do your mend closer to the actual hole, but what I find is when you're doing it really close to the hole, if the yarn frays, then your hole will kind of undo itself again. So it's good to kind of go a little bit further, and doing these under and over stitches will help secure the yarn in place in the sweater. So, and you don't want to leave too much of a gap. So you want the threads to kind of sit right next to each other. So as I'm doing it, I'm constantly sort of pushing down, as you can see, because I'm making sure that it's not getting too tight, the tension of my threads. And here it's just sort of naturally wanting to kind of pucker in because there's a little bit of ribbing, but once I do the warp threads, it'll probably kind of flatten it out a little bit better. So I basically covered the hole. The hole's gone. So now what I'm going to do is with this leftover bit of yarn, I'm just going to do a running stitch along the top there. Let's just do one more row. And then I'll just leave that there and then just give everything a little bit of a tug and then readjust the elastic here before I start on the next section. I'm going to try to bring this down a little bit more. Okay, so now you've done the warp thread, so you can see it's kind of filled in the hole. And the tension looks pretty good. Nothing's kind of stretched too much or pulled in. And feel free to adjust it at this point before you go any further. So I'm gonna just switch to a different color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in this direction. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start doing the running stitches, the under over stitches. And same thing, I'm going to leave like a little tail at the end. Feel free to weave these as you go. Sometimes they get in the way, but I'm just gonna kind of ignore them for now. So when you're getting to the edge here, what I would actually do is go underneath like this before you go do your next row. And what that's gonna do is gonna create an edging, and it'll help to kind of reinforce that part of the sweater at the same time. And be mindful of your tension as well. So when you get to this point, I usually kind of hold the sweater when I give it a little tug. That way you don't pull it too tight. So I'm just gonna pull it down a tiny bit there. Okay, so same thing, I'm going to go underneath and then bring my needle back up and then do the under over stitches. See, and then it's just starting to kind of create a little bit of an edging, which helps to kind of reinforce everything together. So now we're getting pretty close to the actual part that we're going to be weaving. So I sometimes just sort of start taking the needle and going under and over some of these parts that kind of come over. Just be sort of gentle when you're pulling it. So now we're getting to the first row. So we're going to do the under, over, under, over. You can see the whole time this finger is holding everything down so that you're not tugging too hard. So you're just going to continue. I like using the two different colors. It kind of gives it a nice nice look. And a lot of times what I do too is when I get to this point where I'm on the weave part, I take the needle and I kind of push it over like that a bit. And what that does is it helps to make your weaving a little bit sort of tighter. But I do find as you go along, it will get tighter just from the compression of all the different stitches. So if you forget to do that, it's not a big deal. So I'm at the end here, so I'm going to just finish up the last little bits. And then just go a little bit beyond the mended area. And I think I'll stop at that point here. So I'm going to take this off so you can show you. So you can see the back side, it looks very similar. And then if there's any little bits of the sweater showing, you can kind of clip that off. So what you do with the tails is stitch it to the back. And then what you're going to do is just the same thing, under, over in the back here. And when it gets washed, it'll kind of just integrate into the sweater, so. And then this part here. I'm actually gonna go a little bit, I'm gonna go sideways, I think, with this one. Actually, no, I'm just gonna go down. So there you have it. And once you wash it, it'll all kind of work. It'll all kind of blend in together with the rest of the sweater. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching.